Alright, part 2 of our intro to CSS page layout. What we did is we got rid of the margins and padding, so now we have our 4 elements, let's see, what do we call it? The header, the nav, the content, and the footer. And they're as wide as the browser window. So since we haven't given them a width, they completely fill the browser window. Now we're going to do something that's very, very common in CSS layout. And it's a very useful little thing to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to add what's called a wrapper. It sometimes goes by different names, but wrapper is a fairly common name. And I'm going to go to the style sheet here. And it's an ID because there's only one per page. Wrapper. And I'm going to give the wrapper a width of 80%. What that means is that it's going to be 80% the width of the browser window. No matter what size the window is, the wrapper is going to take up 80% of it. So there it is in our style sheet. Now, again, as we did with these others, we have to somehow apply it down here in the body. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to make that the first element. So right after the body tag, we're going to say div ID equals wrapper, and then at the very end, after everything else, we're going to close that div. So let me save that, Command S, go over here and reload the page. And now you can see that all of our content here is now 80% the width of the page because it's now inside of this wrapper that we've created. And you can see it changes size as we resize the browser window. And at this point you're thinking, okay, well, so what's the point? Why do we need this extra space here? Here's the point. Let's go back to our wrapper and we're going to add another style rule to it. What we're going to do is we're going to say margin 0 auto. And if you remember how margins work, this is shorthand. The sequence for the margin is top, right, bottom, left. So if you put 4 numbers in here, the first one would be the top, then the right, then the bottom, then the left. If you just put 2 numbers, this applies top and bottom is 0, right and left is auto. Now watch what happens. This is actually pretty cool. So we go over here, so I just saved that. Go over here, we reload the page, and now what we've done by using the wrapper is we've got our page, everything that's in our web page is now centered within the browser window, and it's going to stay centered as we change the browser, the size. So no matter what size the person has their browser window open to, our web page is going to stay centered within that. This is a pretty nice feature. We've got these annoying bullets hanging out here, and we're going to get rid of those later. So for the time being, let's just don't worry about those. I realize they look ugly, but we can fix that pretty easily. We'll do that later. Alright, now, so we've got put our wrapper in, we've made it 80%. Now we've centered our content. Let's do a couple of other things. Let's take this navigation and make it a column that's just going to appear on the left. So that means we're going to have to add a few things to our navigation. I'm actually going to put a return in there to make it a little bit easier to see. We'll give that navigation column a width of, let's say, 100 pixels. Alright. Oops, that's an extra bracket. We don't need that. Save that. Reload it. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. We're thinking, all right, so now we're starting to get a left navigation, but the problem is we'd like this copy really to go up over there, which it's not doing. So how are we going to make that copy go up over there? We're going to go back to our navigation, and in addition to giving it a width, we're going to do what's called a float. So that means we're going to take that and we're going to float it to the left, which means it's going to slide over to the left. All right, so I've saved that. Let's go back and reload this. And when you float it to the left, you can see that everything else goes around it to the right. Okay, so this is getting better, but still, wouldn't it be nice if we had it so that this content started here and didn't sort of wrap underneath it like that? Okay, we can do that real easily by going to our content area here, which right now only has a background color of yellow. And we're going to add something else to it. We're going to add a margin left that's equal to the width of the nav, which is 100 pixels, and maybe a little bit more. So let's make this 110 pixels. So margin left 110 pixels. Save that. Go back here, reload it. Okay, so you can see what we're getting at here. This is the basic setup of a very typical web page layout. There's lots more we could do with it. It could get a lot fancier, but this is sort of a working version of what a typical web page is. And so we did it using a number of IDs, and then we did a few things with the IDs, like we floated one to the left, and we added a margin left to another one to essentially push that over so that it doesn't overlap the navigation column over here. Let's just do one or two other things. The header is probably going to be typically bigger than that, so let's give it a height of, let's say, 60 pixels. This is just going to make this look a little more like a typical web page. There we have our headline, the nav, the content. We could add more content in there. The content area is just going to expand because of the text that we put in there. So if I copy and I paste this text multiple times and save it, then we're going to have this sort of a thing happening. So again, now we're looking sort of like a typical web page. As we add more navigation things here, that's going to start to extend further down as well. Alright, I think we're going to stop here with our simple CSS layout and suggest that if you want to get further into this, there's quite a few tutorials that'll be real helpful. So those will be posted on the website that's related to this week's assignment.